A key tool for any web developer is the Ftp Protocol, and Filezilla is a piece of software that allows you to utilize this protocol with an easy-to-use GUI interface. This particular video will cover all that you need to know when it comes to using Filezilla with an Apache web server, but first let's discuss what exactly FTP means. FTP stands for File Transfer Protocol and allows for the transmission of files of any size from your local computer to a remote server, typically a web server. It offers varying levels of security and speedy transmissions of large files, which is why it's a protocol of choice for web developers. Now we know what FTP is, let's see how Filezilla is used to transfer web page documents and other assets to a web server. After the application launches, you are ready to provide the necessary information to log into the web server to begin transferring files. Attached to a web server, you first need a few pieces of key information. For this course, you will need the name of the web server, your CSCC username, your assigned password, and finally the port you'll attach to on the web server. With this information in tow, you can now attach to the web server and begin to transfer files. So let's see how to connect. To make subsequent logins quicker, you can store your connection details in Filezilla's Site Manager, which will allow you to not have to enter in the login information every time you connect. You'll know you entered your login details correctly if you didn't receive any red warnings in the connection window, and the right side of the Filezilla window displays a list of folders and files. If you do notice errors or can't see files and folders on the right hand side of Filezilla, then you didn't enter your information correctly, or you may not have access to the web server based on network restrictions. Once you've successfully logged into the web server using Filezilla, you will need to only focus on two areas to transmit your web files to the server. The bottom left window represents the files and folders found on the computer you are currently working on. Think of it as Windows Explorer. You can use this to find the web files you coded on your local machine to transfer them to the web server, which is obviously in a remote location. Once you locate the file that needs to be transferred, you're ready to shift your attention to the bottom right window of Filezilla, which represents the files and folders that will make up your website residing on the CIT Web Dev server. Just like the left-hand window in Filezilla, this window allows you to browse all the folders and files you have stored on the web server. For this course, in all Apache-based web servers, you only need to focus on one of the main folders, which is public HTML. This folder serves as the root of your website's folder and file system and must contain your web page files for them to show up in a browser for the world to see. Any files not stored under this folder will not be visible on the internet. Once you have found public HTML, you're ready to transfer your local web files to the server. The first thing you must decide is where you want to place your local web files on the server under public HTML. Typically, most websites will be made up of a series of folders with files in them that can be seen on the internet using the proper URL in the address bar of a browser. For this demo, we will create a new folder, also known as a directory, under public HTML called Demo. Now that the folder has been created, we can transfer our local web files to it. To do so, you must transition back to the left bottom window of Filezilla, which again represents all the folders and files found on your local computer. You then have to locate where you saved your web file while using a text editor to write your HTML code. For this example, let's assume we saved a file called test.html to our desktop. With the file selected, you can drag and drop it to the demo folder we previously created on the web server under public HTML. As long as you're still connected to the server, you should see the file show up in the right-hand window where you dropped it. Now that the file has been copied to the web server using Filezilla and the FTP protocol, it can be navigated to on the internet using its valid URL, which should now be citwebdev.cscc.edu/tilde your username/demo/test.html. Notice that we don't list public HTML in the URL path. That standard Apache web directory is replaced by your username with a tilde in front of it, and then the folder you created to store the web file in, as well as the web file name itself that you want to see on the internet. If you don't provide the correct URL to the file, it won't open on the internet. Since this is an Apache web server running on a Linux server, case matters, so make sure to name all of your folders and files using lowercase letters without any spaces in the names. You can also use Filezilla to transfer files from the server back to your local machine for backup purposes, which is a recommended practice to prevent complete data loss due to a server outage, damage, or corruption. The process is nearly identical to transferring a file from your local machine to the server, except now the process is in reverse. On the left-hand side of Filezilla, select the folder that you want to back up the server files into. With that folder highlighted, you can now switch back over to the right-hand side of Filezilla to select the files you want to back up to your local machine. Once these have been identified, you can now double-click them, which will download them to the folder you chose earlier on your local machine to be the backup location. Ta-da! You have now successfully backed up a file from the server. This completes the basic operation of Filezilla. Feel free to practice using the software to get a hang of it. You could also check out the pure technical demo of this process showing a file transfer to and from a web server from start to finish found after this learning object in your course.